Now at 4, high demand at local food pantries, how they're keeping the shelves stocked and ready to help.
And we've had the clouds in place for much of the day. More of the same for tomorrow, but we're also going to add some rain into the mix.
After weeks of these meetings, I began to have a thought I could not shake. I realized the best choice for the vice president was the man sitting right in front of me.
And a final farewell to former Vice President Dick Cheney today. Live from Indy, you're watching 13 News. Good afternoon. Great to have you here with us at 4 o'clock. I'm Dustin Grove.
And I'm Felicia Lawrence. So ahead this hour, another state lawmaker says he was targeted by a dangerous swatting prank. So this makes at least 4 Republican senators and their families targeted within the last week.
We'll hear from them. Also, a crazy story that's captured the entire nation's attention. The search is on today for a former Olympic snowboarder who's also now accused of being a drug kingpin. Authorities describe him as the head of one of the world's most dangerous drug trafficking rings. So we've got the latest on that case coming up in just a few moments. But we begin with a huge need across central Indiana right now.
Especially as the holiday season is here. We know many families are struggling to put food on the table, and food pantries are seeing more people than ever right now. Brandon Schaff joins us to share a bit more.
Yeah, and Brandon, I know you spent the day at a local food pantry and you learned that keeping the shelves stocked right now is a real challenge.
Yeah, it really is, Dustin. Felicia, over in McCordsville at the United Methodist Church, their food pantry is seeing hundreds of people that are coming in this week, right ahead of the holidays here. And just a few years ago, it was only 25 people. Now it's 10 times that. So you can really see the demand that they're seeing right now.
Well, what's changed? What are they attributing this to?
Well, this has been a trend for a while here. People relying on this food pantry even before the government shutdown happened. But now that the government shutdown has happened and people are getting those SNAP benefits back, well, they're still seeing all of that demand still coming in, and even more large families now than they used to before. This food pantry is open from 9 to 11 on Wednesday mornings, and it's in a drive-through format with bags containing food items like mac and cheese, fruit, veggies, meat, and more. And they regularly stock up by going to the Midwest Food Bank and getting deliveries from Gleaners twice a month. And they also go to Kroger once a week and even get some leftovers from Panera. But as the church sees this record demand, they emphasize the need for community donations to provide for those people.
Without the donations and without whether it is money or food, we couldn't do what we do.
And at this week's food pantry, they gave out Thanksgiving meals, which included turkeys or hams. And now it will be closed next week on Wednesday ahead of Thanksgiving, but open again to help feed families the following week.
Yeah, so much need there. You were telling us the church is looking for more ways to help people.
Yeah, there's no question, and we will talk about that coming up at 6, hearing from organizers as they're trying to provide for those families even beyond the food that they're serving right now as that demand and that increasing trend continues.
Okay, well, we appreciate you just kind of painting a picture of what's happening in our area and some of the smaller areas as well, smaller pantries. Thank you, Brandon Schaff.
And we're also grateful for all the help, too, happening right now. More help for the holidays. Indy's Office of Public Health and Safety is teaming up with Indy Peace to pass out food for those in need. This is being held at 1825 East 25th Street. I'll say it again, 1825 East 25th Street. That event started just a few minutes ago. It's going to wrap up around 6 o'clock. Now, if you can't make this one, there are going to be 4 more. So you can go to our website, WTHR.com, for those times and locations. Other news now, a 4th Republican state senator has now been the target of a swatting threat during the ongoing congressional redistricting debate. That includes Senator Spencer Deary of West Lafayette. Just this morning, dispatchers notified Deary they'd gotten a report of domestic abuse at his house, and that there would also be a threat of violence to any officers who responded. This is a dangerous prank known as swatting. The hope is to get the SWAT team to some unsuspecting person's home, guns drawn, and create a confrontation. Well, in a statement, Deary said, "I am grateful to the West Lafayette Police Department for their professionalism and preparedness to recognize this as a swatting attempt that could be resolved without putting my children or the children on our street who were preparing to board school buses in a dangerous and stressful situation." Then this afternoon, State Senator Rick Niemeyer confirmed he had been the target of a swatting attempt. The other two GOP state senators targeted are Dan Durnock and Greg Good. All three, of course, are involved in this contentious debate over congressional redistricting. Deary also said in his statement this morning, it is disturbing that anyone would attempt to harm or intimidate lawmakers, but sadly, not all that surprising in this current environment. I want to go to Washington now, where Senator Jim Banks of Indiana just helped introduce the Putting American Workers First Act. So here's what this would do. This bill would give the National Labor Relations Board jurisdiction to investigate and prosecute employers who hire undocumented immigrants. That bill would also make it an unfair labor practice to hire or unionize undocumented immigrants, while creating a safe harbor for employers who use E-Verify to confirm work eligibility.
IMPD just launched a new transparency dashboard. This is what that website looks like. You can comb through 3 different tabs: crime statistics, traffic statistics, and then professional standards. Once you go into each of these, here's what is a look at what you might see. These are the number of calls for service just from yesterday. You can click over here on the map and see individual areas. You get a breakdown by the type of call and by address. Then there is something called the incident report search, where you can comb through this map and look at all of the different incident reports as far back as you want to go within the last year. You can do yesterday to today, the entire month. And then when you click on each of these incidents, you can get a breakdown. Here's a robbery report on November 6th at Alabama and Market. Then there is a bunch of data on traffic stops. You can see the number of traffic stops from this week, the number of citations and warnings issued, and then what community advocates are most excited for, this use of force dashboard, breaking it down by year and types of force used.
All right, Ashton, and then police in Hamilton County are investigating a deadly crash involving a deer and a semi-truck. So it took place around 4 this morning along southbound US 31 near 256th Street. Police say a SUV hit a deer that stopped the SUV in the road. That is what stopped it. The semi-truck then ran into that stopped SUV, killing that driver.
All right, let's turn to the weather now. It's been a cooler and cloudy day across central Indiana. Kind of misty at times too, Rob.
Yeah, just gray.
Yeah.
Just gray. I mean, we could use some sunshine. A little bit of good news, a little bit of bad news. Which do you want first?
Let's do the good news.
Neither?
You okay with that?
Okay.
Let's do the good news first.
Good news first. By the weekend, plenty of sunshine.
Oh, good.
Expecting a good, nice bit of sunshine. The bad news is Friday looks like a bit of a mess with a lot of rain expected. So get through kind of a soggy Friday. That'll set you up for a nice weekend. That's what we're expecting. Let's talk about it. Let's get into the details here with the forecast temperatures. Current temperatures are into the 40s. We've kind of been stuck there because of all of those clouds. Notice a couple of 50s starting to show up on the board. I don't think our temperatures have moved or will move very much over the next several hours or so. Temperatures probably going to hold into the 40s, and if anything, I think through early morning we may see these temperatures tick up just a couple degrees, maybe even being about 2 degrees warmer by tomorrow morning. It's a general trend here of staying pretty mild during the overnight. The clouds have stayed with us. We are losing the sunlight, which is why the visible is getting a bit darker there at the end. But overall, we haven't seen much in the way of any rain. A little drizzle or sprinkle has been out there. We can see the tops of the buildings now, though, because the cloud deck is lifted just a little bit. But watch out for a little bit of patchy fog during the overnight tonight. We'll leave that in the forecast. There's the temperatures holding and maybe even gaining a degree during the overnight hours. Temperatures pretty much where they are. What you see is what you get. I'll talk about the rain, how much rain we could see, and also show you that weekend. And wait until you see the Thanksgiving forecast. This is one we're going to be talking about coming up. Oh, let's hit traffic real quick. There's the board. I wanted to show you this actually. I don't really want to show it to you, but I do want to mention that we've got some issues on the split. You know the drill. We've had this for the past several weeks. From the north split to the south split, they've got some lane closures. Some days it's 1 lane, some days it's 2 lanes, but look at it causing the backup from 65 southbound, also 70 westbound. Here's the traffic camera. This one's over at I-69. Let me go to the other one. There's the split. They are also advising that you can take, especially if you're heading 65 southbound, you can take the Ohio and Fletcher Avenue lanes that you see on the right side of your screen. That will allow you to get back onto 65, but it just opens up some additional alternate lanes to allow traffic to flow through that area. Guys?
All right, Rob, thanks so much for those updates. We'll check back in. And today, Washington National Cathedral hosted a bipartisan show of respect and remembrance for former Vice President Dick Cheney. 2 ex-presidents came. Republican George W. Bush eulogized the man who served him as vice president, calling Cheney smart and polished, without airs. Cheney, who served as Bush's vice president from 2001 to 2009, died November 3rd at the age of 84.
In his memoir, President Ford described Dick's steadiness, his low-key style, and his absolute loyalty. I know exactly what he meant. These are not traits easy to come by in Washington. Being calm, reticent, undramatic, and untrustworthy are not everyone's formula for success in politics. But they were the Cheney way, and they worked. I'm reminded of a renowned senator who once gave this advice to a junior colleague. Perhaps he said you could occasionally allow yourself the luxury of an unexpressed thought. Dick Cheney was like that, sparing and measured with words. In a profession that attracts talkers, he was a thinker and a listener. And when he did speak up, conveying thoughts in that even tone of voice, that orderly, unexcitable manner, you knew you were getting the best of a highly disciplined mind.
Former President Biden sat in a row with former President Bush and their wives, and former Vice President Kamala Harris also attended. Neither President Trump nor Vice President J.D. Vance were invited.
An ex-Olympic snowboarder indicted on a murder charge. We'll tell you why the U.S. is having a difficult time tracking him down.
And President Trump has signed the Epstein files bill, when those files are expected to be released to the public.